The gravel shoulder of Route 9 is not a place you stop with a child. Semi-trucks tear past, so close you can feel the wind yank at your clothes, the ground trembling under your feet like it's warning you to run. My 2-year-old son is clinging to my chest, his small fingers twisted into my jacket, his face wet with tears. He's too tired to cry anymore. I keep walking anyway, because I don't have a car, because my husband took my keys, and because if I stop, I might finally admit how bad things have become. Then tires screech. A black pickup slams into park directly in front of me, blocking the road. For half a second, my heart jumps. I think it's him, that he's come to drag us back. But it's my father. He jumps out before the engine even dies, face white with rage, eyes scanning the empty road behind me like he expects to see wreckage. "Olivia," he shouts over the traffic. Badge still clipped to his belt out of habit, even off duty. "Where is your vehicle?" I look at him, really look at him. And for the first time in 6 months, I tell the truth. "Anthony took my keys," I say. My voice doesn't shake. He says I'm medically unfit to drive. The words hang there, thin and fragile, like glass about to crack. My father doesn't respond right away. He looks at Noah, at the red marks on my wrists where little hands have held on too tight for too long, at the backpack slung over my shoulder that holds diapers, a bottle, and every important document I thought I might need if I ever ran. He opens the passenger door without a word. "Get in," he says. The silence inside the truck is heavier than the highway we just escaped. The air conditioning blasts against my skin, drying sweat that has nothing to do with heat. Noah falls asleep instantly in the car seat, worn out from fear. I watch his chest rise and fall and feel my hands start to tremble now that I'm safe enough to fall apart. "How long?" my father asks. He doesn't look at me. His eyes stay on the road. His hands are locked around the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles are white. He isn't asking as my dad. He's asking like a police chief taking a statement. 6 months, I whisper. Since Noah turned 18 months. He exhales sharply, like the air has been punched out of him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it didn't look like abuse." "Dad," I say quietly, "that's the trick. It didn't start with a fist or a lock on the door. It started with a casserole. It started with his mother showing up unannounced, smiling too wide, setting food on the counter and saying, 'You look tired.' Let Anthony handle things for a while. It started with concern, with help, with people slowly deciding I couldn't be trusted with my own life. And by the time I realized what was happening, I didn't own my car, my money, or my freedom anymore. My father says nothing. But I see it in the tightening of his jaw. He finally understands something I didn't. This wasn't an argument. This was a plan. And as the truck merges back into traffic, I don't know it yet, but Anthony has already made the worst mistake of his life. Because he didn't just isolate me. He put me in the car with the one man who knows exactly how to dismantle someone. Legally, patiently, and without mercy. My father didn't take me to his house. That would have been too obvious, too emotional. Instead, he drove straight past it and pulled into the parking lot of a small diner off the highway, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes burned no matter how fresh it is. "Eat," he said, sliding a menu toward me. I wasn't hungry. My stomach had been in a permanent knot for months, but I ordered anyway because I'd learned something living with Anthony. Refusal was always treated like guilt. While we waited, my father watched me the way he used to watch suspects in interrogation rooms. Quiet, patient, letting the silence do the work. "You said it started with help," he finally said. "Walk me through it." So I did. It started after Noah was born. Anthony had been perfect at first. Attentive, Protective, almost, proud. He handled night feeds, took pictures, told everyone how strong I was. Then came the concern. "You look exhausted," he'd say. "You don't have to push yourself. Why don't you rest?" I've got this. When his mother Susan started showing up with casseroles, it felt like relief. She folded laundry, rocked Noah, told me I was lucky to have such a support system. And I believed her. Because nothing feels dangerous when it arrives wrapped in kindness. The first thing Anthony took wasn't my keys. It was my confidence. He'd correct me in front of people. "Oh, Olivia gets overwhelmed easily. She forgets things when she's tired. She's emotional. It's just hormones." Doctors nodded. Friends laughed it off. And slowly, conversations stopped being with me and started being about me. Susan suggested I stop driving for a while, just until you feel more like yourself, she said gently. "It's safer." Anthony backed her up. "I worry about you," he said, squeezing my hand in front of others. "What if something happened to Noah?" So I handed over the keys. Voluntarily. That's the part no one understands. My father's coffee went cold. "Did anyone document this?" he asked. I shook my head. They didn't need to. They had witnesses. Family. Doctors. Friends. A pattern. That's what they were building. By month 3, I didn't go anywhere alone. By month 4, Anthony controlled the bank account to help me focus on recovery. By month 5, Susan had a spare key and opinions about everything, from my sleep schedule to what I wore. And by month 6, when I asked for my keys back, Anthony smiled. "I don't think you're ready yet," he said. We talked about this. That's when I knew. Not that I was trapped, but that they'd planned it. My father leaned back in the booth, eyes sharp now. "They took your autonomy," he said. "That's step 1. What's step 2, I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notebook. Old habit. He flipped it open. "Step 2, he said slowly, "is making sure everyone believes you don't deserve it back." That night, I stayed in the guest room of his house. For the first time in months, no one checked my phone. No one monitored my breathing. No one asked if I was feeling stable. I slept like someone who'd been underwater too long. The next morning, my father made a single phone call. He didn't tell me who it was to. But when he hung up, he looked at me and said something that chilled me more than anything Anthony had ever done. "If they're building a case against you," he said, "then we're going to let them finish." I felt my pulse spike. "Dad, we're not going to fight yet," he continued. "We're going to document, observe, collect." He paused. "And then we're going to show them exactly what happens when control turns into a crime." My phone buzzed. "Anthony, missed call." Then another. Then a text. "Where are you? You're scaring me. This isn't helping your case." I stared at the screen. For the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity. Because now I could see the script, and more importantly, I knew how it ended. Anthony showed up at my father's house 2 days later. He didn't knock. He rang the doorbell once, hard, and then stepped back, arms crossed, jaw tight, already practicing the concerned husband routine. I watched from the hallway as my father opened the door. "Officer," Anthony said, forcing a smile. I was hoping we could talk. My father didn't correct him. That was mistake number 1. "You can," my father replied calmly. From there, Anthony's eyes flicked past him, searching for me. He found me standing in the shadow of the hall. Relief flashed across his face. Then, annoyance. "Olivia," he said, soft but sharp. "This isn't okay. You took Noah without telling me. My father didn't move. You don't get to speak to her like that in my house," he said. Anthony laughed lightly, like this was all a misunderstanding. "I'm just worried," he said. "She's been unstable lately." There it was, out loud, documented. Mistake number 2. My father stepped aside just enough for Anthony to see the small camera mounted near the doorframe. Old security system, always on. Anthony followed his gaze. His smile tightened. "Oh," he said, "you're recording this?" "We record everything," my father replied. "You should be familiar with that concept." Anthony swallowed. Then he pivoted. Too fast, too aggressive. "I have medical documentation," he said. "Doctors, notes, recommendations." Olivia agreed she needed help. He looked at me now. "Tell him," he said. "Tell him you weren't okay." I met his eyes. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. "I was exhausted," I said. "That's not the same thing." The silence that followed was thick. Anthony exhaled through his nose. "You see?" he said to my father. "This is what I mean. She doesn't understand her condition." Mistake number 3. My father nodded slowly. "Anthony," he said, "are you claiming legal guardianship over my adult daughter?" Anthony hesitated. "Just a fraction too long." "No," he said. "Of course not. Then why did you confiscate her vehicle?" Anthony's mouth opened, closed. "I didn't confiscate anything," he said quickly. "She gave me the keys, mistake number 4. Because my father didn't argue. He simply said, 'Under what circumstances?'" Anthony shrugged. "For safety." "For whose safety?" "Our son's." "And who made that determination?" Anthony lifted his chin. "We did." As a family, the camera blinked softly. Recording. Anthony left 20 minutes later. Not angry. Not threatening. Worried. Because somewhere in that conversation, he realized something had shifted. The tone had changed. He hadn't come to retrieve me. He'd come to reassert control, and failed. That night, my father spread documents across the dining table. Bank statements. Medical notes. Text logs. "You see this?" he said, pointing to a highlighted section. "Susan's scheduling your appointments." I stared. "I never asked her to, I know." "And this," he continued. "Your paycheck. Deposited into an account your name isn't on." My chest tightened. "I thought it was temporary. They always do," he said. Then he showed me the final thing, a printed email from Susan to a family attorney. Subject line, "Long-term care options for Olivia." I felt the room tilt. "They were planning to institutionalize you," my father said quietly. "Not for your health. For convenience." My hands shook. "What do we do?" I whispered. My father folded the paper carefully, like evidence. "We wait," he said. "For what?" "For them to push harder. Because people who crave control don't stop. They escalate." And when Anthony realized I wasn't coming home, he made the call that sealed everything. The police showed up just after 7 a.m., 2 uniformed officers. Calm, professional, hands resting casually near their belts. A wellness check. I knew it the moment my father looked through the window and exhaled slowly through his nose. "They called it in," he said. "Anthony or his mother." My heart started racing anyway. Even when you've done nothing wrong, a knock like that carries weight. My father opened the door. "Morning," one of the officers said. "We're here to check on Olivia Harris." My father stepped aside without hesitation. "She's right here," he said, "and she's fine." They came in, looked around, took in the clean house, the baby gear neatly arranged, the calm. One of them glanced at me, smiled gently. "Ma'am, are you okay?" "Yes," I said. "I am." "And your child?" "Asleep upstairs." The officers nodded. Then one of them asked the question Anthony was counting on. "Your husband expressed concern about your mental state," he said carefully. "He says you may be a danger to yourself or others." There it was. The nuclear option. My father didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He reached into a drawer and placed a folder on the table. "Before we continue," he said, "I need you to understand something." He slid his badge across the wood. Retired, but still very real. "I was chief of this department for 18 years, he continued. And everything that happens in this room is being recorded. The officers stiffened, just slightly. Now, my father said, you're welcome to ask my daughter any questions you need, but I'll also be providing context. He didn't defend me emotionally. He dismantled the narrative. He showed them the timeline, the texts restricting my movement, the bank account I couldn't access, the medical appointments I hadn't scheduled. Then he showed them the email. Susan's email. The officers exchanged a look. This doesn't read like concern, one of them said slowly. This reads like coercive control. Anthony's mistake wasn't calling the police. It was assuming they wouldn't recognize abuse without bruises. They asked me one last question. Do you wish to return to your marital home? No, I said. Do you feel unsafe if forced to? Yes. That was all they needed. When the officers left, my phone rang. Anthony. This time, I answered. What did you do? He hissed. I told the truth, I said. You embarrassed me, he snapped. Do you have any idea how this looks? I almost laughed. How it looks, I said, isn't my responsibility anymore. Silence. Then his voice dropped. You're making a mistake, he said. You can't win this. I looked at my father, standing quietly by the window. I already did, I said, and hung up. 3 days later, a court date was set. Emergency custody. Financial review. Restraining provisions. Susan stopped bringing casseroles. She started bringing lawyers. The night before the hearing, my father knocked on my door. You ready? He asked. I thought about the road, the shoulder of Route 9, the way Noah had clung to me. Yes, I said, I am. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No dramatic benches, no grand speeches, just pale walls, a judge with tired eyes, and the soft hum of a machine recording everything that mattered. Anthony sat at the opposite table. Not angry, not smug, just rigid. Susan was beside him, lips pressed tight, hands folded like prayer, but her eyes kept darting to the door, as if someone might still come to save them. No one did. My father didn't testify as my dad. He testified as a former chief of police presenting a timeline. Dates. Documents. Patterns. Control disguised as care. The judge listened. Susan's lawyer tried once. Concern for a new mother's mental health. The judge raised a hand. Concern does not explain financial isolation, she said. Nor does it justify confiscation of transportation. Anthony shifted. That was the first crack. Then my attorney spoke. She didn't dramatize anything. She simply played audio. Anthony's voice. Clear, calm, recorded. I don't think you're ready yet. We decided. This isn't helping your case. The judge leaned back. That was the second crack. The ruling came fast. Temporary full custody to me. Supervised visitation only. Immediate financial restitution. A protective order limiting contact. Susan's hands started shaking. Anthony stared straight ahead. When it was over, he didn't look at me. Not once. The real ending didn't happen in court. It happened weeks later. I was at a cafe, Noah in a high chair beside me, smashing a muffin into crumbs like it was his life's purpose. I had my keys on the table. I noticed them because someone else did. Susan stood a few feet away, smaller somehow. She didn't bring food. She didn't smile. I just wanted to say, she began, then stopped. For the first time, she had nothing prepared. You raised concerns, she said finally. That's all. I met her eyes. You raised a system, I said. And it failed, she nodded once. And walked out. Anthony moved out of state. That's what people said. I didn't ask where. Some things don't need closure. Months later, I drove Route 9 again. On purpose. I pulled over at the shoulder where my father had found me. The road was loud, relentless, uncaring. I held my son's hand. This time, I got back into the car when I chose. People think revenge looks like destruction. It doesn't. Sometimes it looks like quiet mornings, unlocked doors, your own name on your own bank account. Sometimes it looks like a set of keys resting on a cafe table, and no one daring to take them again.